the biggest misstep that I see is that we're always aimlessly following the rules because of like seeing somebody do the same thing, but not necessarily knowing why they did the thing. Part of my mission is to really make and weave social media as a part of your strategy, not just like the end all be all. When I started my consulting business in 2023, I was teaching small business owners how to use Instagram effectively, grow their business. You have to understand like what are their main aspirations, the desires that they have, the transformation that they want, and what struggles do they have that is preventing them from getting the goal that they want.
This is the Investing RN podcast, and I'm here with Josh as usual. And today we are joined by Jumer Adalin. We just practiced it, so I hope I got it right. But
you got the works.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. He's out of Texas and working as a nurse and doing some other cool stuff on Instagram, which for us is huge because, full disclosure, we have struggled with Instagram, and we will get into that, and you will understand why soon enough. But Jumer, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just so excited to chat about all the things.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, we had to cancel a couple times, but we made it today, and here we are.
Yeah. Turns out coordinating 3 schedules is a little tricky, but we got it.
Time zones and
time zones for real. Yeah, I didn't realize that you were in separate time zones, so kudos for planning.
Oh my goodness. And like a little foreshadowing, Brian, you were on his podcast. We have him coming on next week. Oh my goodness, we've had to reschedule him so many times because he's Eastern.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been fun. So
great guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, like I was mentioning before, we recently heard you on Scrubs and Stocks, and you've been on Brian. So, well, I feel like now that we've gotten into this nursing investing community, it's a pretty small little group here. So it's cool to see you on some other shows there of people that we like and we've either talked to or are going to talk to. But one of the things I heard you talk about, which shocked me, was that a lot of your family is nurses. Mm-hmm. And so was that your introduction to nursing? Is that how you got into it?
I think it is my go-to introduction. Like you've heard it before. I am Filipino. I was born and raised into a family of nurses. And so I still remember to this day my first nursing school panel interview. And one of the interviewers asked me, like, why do you want to become a nurse? And without hesitation, I said, because my mom told me so. And I flunked that, of course. And, the rest is history. I wouldn't have it any other way for real. Like it has opened so many opportunities. Like I moved here when I was 19 from the Philippines. And so it's I call it the national sport of the Philippines is being a nurse. And it's, opened up so many incredible opportunities. Like I moved here at such a young age and did not know that nursing was going to be sort of like what's going to help me and my family, live a better life. And so I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. Is most of your family still in the Philippines or are they all out here?
They're all out here. My sister's a nurse. My sister-in-law is actually the one who brought everybody over about 20 years ago. And so I finished nursing school in the Philippines. It was just about the time that I was going to sit for the U.S., the boards. And I became a SNF nurse at first, which is a lot of people don't know that a lot of foreign educated nurses kind of start out that way because it's the easiest way to do. And then I became an ICU nurse and I just never looked back and I just fell in love with critical care.
So you were a nurse before you came over here? Is that what you just said?
I was very briefly in the Philippines and it was just about the time that I was 19, 20, and I sat for the NCLEX at 21 and since then I've been a nurse.
Okay. And you did all that in the Philippines or no?
No. So I had to take a lot of exams here, which is another story.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious because what is that like coming because you were a nurse in a different country? What are the hurdles that you have to jump through once you come over here?
Right. So for me, I think what sets mine apart is because my family are already, a lot of nurses. And plus I already have a family member who's lived here and can easily petition family members who are also nurses. So it's kind of easier. But for me, because I went to nursing school in the Philippines and foreign educated, I had to take several exams like this English proficiency exam, another state sort of requirement exam, which is CGFNS. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that. It's Commission for Foreign Graduate of Nursing Schools, something along those lines. So that's another difficult exam. It was like 300 questions, and it was like, this is like really, really like if you did not bother to read, you would not pass it. So I failed it the first time, of course, because I thought it was the same thing as the NCLEX. But NCLEX is a little bit like super practical and application based. But that other exam was like to the T, textbook. And then the English proficiency exam, and then once you pass both, you get to sit for the NCLEX.
Oh. And is that in addition to all the regular citizenship tests that you have to take? Because
absolutely,
I've heard some of that, and
yeah,
I don't think 95% of Americans would pass these tests. These tests that people need for citizenship.
Yeah, I did help. I remember when my mom sat for her citizenship interview, whatever you call it, and we had to study. And she was like, "How do people memorize all this?" And they only ask you like 10 questions out of like 100 review questions, and I'm like, "Really?" But she passed it. I passed it.
It's doable.
But it's tough. Like questions people were coming up with are the stuff they knew. I was telling this one guy, I don't know half these questions, all these questions, and it's kind of I'm kind of ashamed to admit it, but all these questions about the amendments and the Constitution and all this stuff. I'm like, I get
like how many U.S. senators or something like that. And I'm like, I'm registered to vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds a lot like the NCLEX.
Yeah.
But
so, I don't know if this story really applies, but it reminded me of the story. So I was playing games with my wife's family, and they're all Polish, and they're American citizens now, but this was a few years ago when they were like studying and all that stuff. And we were playing this game, and Nicole's mom, the question was, how many U.S. states are there? And her mom was like, 52. And then it was immediately her dad looked over and he's like, no, dummy, it's 54. I know that's a really dumb story, but it reminded me of that, and I thought it was hilarious.
So maybe
I laugh at it.
Maybe it's not as hard as I thought.
It's like stuff that you're like, like if you'd never bothered to remember and memorize, like you will forget.
Yeah. So you jumped through all those hoops, made it here, you did your schooling and all that, and you started off in the SNF. I know that's I don't want to say that's like the lowest end of nursing, but I mean that's kind of where nobody wants to go, right? And is that why a lot of people start there?
It can become a pretty common entry point, especially for nurses who don't have, acute, like everybody back then, 10, 15 years ago, were looking for acute care experience. And I'm like, I just moved here and I can't get into a hospital because everybody's asking for 1 year experience. And so SNFs are the saving grace because they literally will take you arms wide open. And I started out as a CNA. While working as a CNA, I, studied for the NCLEX, and they absorbed me once I get my license. And I was like, I really want to get into a hospital. And so that was, the natural route for me was to find a nursing job in a hospital. And after a year, I was like, I'm ready for more. And so that's how I got into the ICU.
So SNF, this is not a term that I don't think I've heard that before. What does that mean exactly?
Skilled nursing facility. LTAC.
SNF?
Yeah.
Skilled
nursing facility. SNF.
and that's why I'm just here, and you guys.
Oh man, right. I guess you don't deal because Josh went straight into the ICU. So
I've never heard that.
I mean,
before.
that's great. Yeah. When you get thrown into a specialty, like that's all you know sometimes, and like everything else is like, what is that world like?
I very much had blinders on throughout my entire nursing career.
Yeah. And that's how you became like naturally a CRNA.
Yeah. Honestly, I did not deviate to one way. I was blinders the whole time.
Yeah, we get I've done ER mostly, so SNF is very familiar, and it's like how quick can we get them back to the SNF?
There you go. Yeah. I'm a lurker on the nursing subreddit, and they always say like the ER nurses are always like treat them and yeet them. And I'm like, that is a very Gen Z thing to say. I love that.
Yeah. I've never heard that.
And yep, treat him and eat him.
I almost don't even know what that means, but
I don't know either, but it just sounds
like old.
I barely know what that means.
Sure.
He's like, I'm too busy eating them. I don't have
to. Yeah. Can we skip straight to that? Yeah. But so, and then you went into ICU, and how long did you do ICU?
Oh my gosh, close to 10 years now. Like as I was, reconsidering my life, I was close to being about 10 years into the ICU, and I was like, I'm really looking to shift gears. And it was just back in 2020, like most of us, I hit a wall basically, and I sort of knew that I didn't want to spend another 5, 10 years, another decade at the bedside doing the same thing, back breaking ICU work. And this was what cardiac ICU, so we did a lot of devices, like I feel like the ICUs are so different. Like, CVICU, you have already brand new hearts, but like a cardiac ICU could be very different because it's like they need a new one, right? And so everything you're trying to just band aid until they get into surgery. And so this one was like, it really taught me like, a thick skin and all of that. And so it taught me everything I needed to know and to become a PICC nurse and basically not sweat the small stuff and like, hey, you're here for 30 minutes, I can take care of you, like go do whatever. And so that helped me like really appreciate like the quick turnover of patients versus like being bogged down with 12 hours of bedside care.
Yeah. What? So obviously, COVID happened in 2020, and I think a lot of people found themselves reconsidering life. But was there anything specific that was happening with you? You know, one of the topics that comes a lot is burnout. So was there something prior to COVID that was kind of making you feel that way already, or was it just the stress of COVID that made you reconsider?
I think it was a multitude of things just kind of piling up on top of each other. Like considering that I was, nearing a decade into bedside, and I was just like, I've already considered, taking organic chem as a prerequisite for CRNA school. And I was like, no, I don't want to be stuck with homework. And I'm sure you guys can resonate with that. And, I didn't want to necessarily become an NP. I really love teaching, but I feel like, like, and that's why I'm in the online space. And I feel like I've truly found my calling because I can kind of blend my passion for, teaching and helping people at the same time, helping people in the hospital, helping people outside of the hospital, and kind of blending that in with creativity. And so for me, it was just the right time. The pandemic hit, and I was just completely like looking for another way that I could, reignite um, my passion for teaching and all of the things at the same time. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
Okay.
We're always trying not to cut each
Well,
other off.
yeah. When I was trying to kind of segue that into your Instagram, your online business. So like you've been doing this for a while, and I noticed like you had like a transition. At first you were like online marketing, like Instagram growth, and then you niched down even further to nurses. So I guess tell us like that the story and why you would do that, and just kind of go into all of that.
Right. So when I started my consulting business in 2023, early into 2023, I was teaching small business owners how to use Instagram effectively, grow their business. Um, and as I was having more one-to-one conversations and really looking around to see how I can effectively help people, I've noticed an underserved community, a demographic of entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, who needed, help in their marketing strategy and social media. And so I discovered a whole entire world of like nurse entrepreneurs in the online space who were once me, who struggled to use it effectively, to master it, to generate leads, grow a community, build a following. And so I've made it my mission since then to really help nurses in the online space use or create a social media strategy that is, of course, as dynamic and as hardworking as they are, so they can create more impact and more income, like all of us.
Well, and that's like I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but we were talking about it before we hit record. That's been a pain point with us, and I think there's a few different reasons that kind of create to this. I don't want to say confusion, but it's, well, for one, it's there's three of us, and we all have very different styles and taste for content. And then we're all full time in the hospital, not maybe not full time, but we're working a lot, and so we and just dealing with the social media takes way more time than I ever thought it or imagined it. And when we first were on, it was like all fun and like, yeah, let's all do this. But now like you're in the grind, it's like this takes so much time and effort. Like what how do you how do you tell people to use it? I guess give us some tips on how to use it effectively without burning out on just some other platform.
Right. And that's like my part of my mission is to really make and weave social media as like a part of your strategy, not just like the end all be all, right? Like it's I think of like a content strategy sort of like a funnel, right? Like the top is like the widest funnel where people widest opening where people come into your world, you're attracting them. Like the middle part is sort of like the nurturing aspect of it, and then the bottom of the funnel where they convert is where they like, know, and trust you essentially, and that's where they either opt into your email list or sign up for your coaching program, your offers, all of that. So I feel like because I've worked with so many nurse coaches, nurse educators, mentors, nurse entrepreneurs, NPs, and the biggest misstep that I see is that we're always aimlessly following the rules because of like seeing somebody do the same thing, but not necessarily knowing why they did the thing and not getting clear on your personal, let's say, brand and your goals that you want to achieve with your account, or let's say just basically this month, right? And so getting clear on your goal first. What do you want? What do you want community building this month? Do you want to convert people into sort of like your funnel and to get them to, ultimately lead them into the sale? And so for me, the content strategy that I teach, like I said, is the attracting content, the nurturing content, and the content that converts. So a combination of that gives the person, ultimately your dream client, your ideal customers, a big picture of what you have to offer versus like, oh, I'm just trying to sell to them, which is like a lot of people say this, like, oh, I feel icky selling. It's because you've jumped straight to that part, right? We've missed sort of like the little steps that lead up to that, which is like sharing your brand story, sharing where you came from, sharing your why, and ultimately your what do you believe to be true in your niche or in your industry.
Those are wise words.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
we'll have to listen back to that.
Honestly, well, and I talk about a couple of the communities that I've joined, and like I'm highly considering leaving most of them because I'm in these communities. And how do you find that line? Because obviously you need income and you want to help people, but you can't help everybody for free, because that would just be ridiculous. So like, how do you find that line?
So I think that selling ultimately comes down to connection first before anything else. When somebody DMs you or responds to your story, your ultimate goal is to connect first before anything else. And that's the basis of, social media is connection. And they need to know if like the person on the other end shares the same values, the same principles as me. And if at the end of the day, they're credible and have done the thing that I want to achieve. Right. And so part of that is, embodying what you preach. Right. And ultimately, if you have the solution to somebody's problem and you know that it can solve that, and they see you implement, do, and teach what you are offering, then of course ultimately they're going to want to buy from you, right? And so the like, know, and trust factor is the most important thing in making sure that we're not just selling just to sell. We're actually offering the transformation, the outcome that they want to have, because we've first lived the outcome first, right?
I think one of the things that has been, I mean, we're not at a point right now where
It's coming.
really trying to sell anything. We're just trying to promote the podcast at this point.
Just kidding.
Yeah. we're just reeling them in. Yeah, no, but I think just like the whole thing of I want to say this without saying imposter syndrome, but there, I said it. So it's that, and it's like, at what point are you a credible source to teach, or a credible source to offer advice? I guess it just varies case by case, but in your case, what was it that made you feel ready to actually sell something like this to people?
Colin, don't get me wrong. I think like the foundation of a good personal brand is really building awareness on what your mission is, and that's what you guys are doing right now. Like this is really, really important in like the beginning stages, is to really bring awareness to your personal brand, which is with you guys investing RN podcast, is what all of you collectively three are, making it known for. And so ultimately, when you build that brand awareness and you've made it, very clear that this is our mission, this is what we aim to do, and ultimately, because you guys have done all the things real estate, right? I don't know real estate. Like, I know a little bit of REITs, but like, because I know that you guys have lived your mission, have done the thing, and have achieved what I wanted as an outcome, then I will come to the ones that have built that awareness ultimately, because I trust them and I know the story. I know basically all three of you. And so people will have affinity with people that connect with stories first before anything else. So when I know the story, the why behind the brand, then it's just going to be a no-brainer for me to consume all the things that they have to offer.
And then specifically for you, in terms of what you started doing, what were the steps that you took where you felt like, yeah, I'm ready to launch this thing, I'm ready to start coaching people?
Right. So I think it is because for the longest time I've had this in the back burner. I've gotten out of debt. I finally hit six figures as as a salary as a nurse, and I've always felt like I never had enough. And so I asked myself, like, when is it going to be enough? And so when I said, and I decided one day that it was going to be enough, that I finally hit six figures as a nurse. I'm over 30 now, and I just like set milestones that led up to the launch and deciding to start a consulting business. And so I just made it a point where I'm like, I'm going to run with it. I know that I'm really good at building connections, at establishing a personal brand. And so I've first done the work one to one, so I can see who really truly needs my help versus like making it super broad and like not talking to anyone, because that's one of the biggest also mistakes that I see online, is that we're trying to create for everybody and then we end up talking to nobody because it doesn't stick with anyone, right?
So that, I think, is another one of our issues. And it's funny because so I will fully admit that Josh and Jen are way more into the researching and the social media side of things. I'm kind of more in the real estate side of things currently, but Gary V, I heard you reference him on the Scrubs and Stocks, and I think recently there's been, Josh initially was like volume. Let's volume, like
My tone's changed a little
cast
bit,
a wide net.
but yeah,
No, it has. But it was like cast a wide net because you never know who you're going to reach. And I think Jen initially was more, we got a laser focus, and I kind of agreed with Jen more. But then I think recently Jen started reading Gary V's book, and it sounds like maybe the wide net is the way. So it's like, I don't know, but for you say you're influenced by Gary V, but now you're saying you really got to focus in.
yeah. And
So what makes you say that, I guess?
So
Oh, sorry, Josh. Do you want to piggyback,
yeah,
Josh?
yeah. Well, and I mean, tell us where we're wrong, because we were told there's a lot of different influencers on social media, and one of them says, no, you have to be perfect in this way, and one of them's like, no, just throw a bunch of stuff, and if you get 2 viral posts, then you're good to go. Like, so I was thinking originally, like, the more we do, the higher chance we have at something going viral. Transparently, that never happened.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like, I was like, well, I suck at posting, so the more I post, the better I'll get. That didn't happen either.
You've gotten better.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Your acting skills have improved.
Oh my goodness.
Somewhat.
But what do you, I guess, what do you tell people, like, in different stages of their growth? Like, somebody starting out, what do you tell them? Somebody who kind of has like a very decent following, but not like anything crazy. What do you tell them?
Right. So I think it all comes down to knowing what your immediate like resources are that are within your reach. So for us, like for me and you guys, nurses, right? And so for me, ultimately, because I know that it's going to be an easy network that I can create around that, then it's going to be like I've lived, working full time as a nurse, and I've built a business around that as well. So for me, it's a no brainer for me to be able to create an offer around that. And so for you guys, I feel like because you guys are CRNAs to begin with and you love investing, like it's an incredible, incredible niche. And so it all comes down to who do you want to serve? Who are your best fit ideal clients? So it's going to be definitely nurses, CRNAs. It could be nurse practitioners. And what desire do they want out of investing, right? Is it, you have to understand like what are their main aspirations, the desires that they have, the transformation that they want, and what struggles do they have that is preventing them from getting the goal that they want, right? So really going down and I think niching down is such an overused term now that it's like, oh, again, like you said, like it's conflicting opinions, but then it varies on like what is the immediate resource that we have around us, and let's work from that versus like someone who probably has financial how do you call that, like so like let's say a financial coaching business, very broad, right? But if that person thinks, okay, who have I been around recently? What are the immediate connections that I have? Okay, let's just say realtors, right? Then that's going to be my immediate target audience instead of like a very broad financial coaching, which is, again, it's going to be hard to zero in and understand that ideal client versus somebody who's like, realtors need so and so, and I understand them because these are the people that I've worked with before, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think the original question was more kind of based on like forming content on Instagram specifically and like posting on social media. Like if somebody's starting there, how do you tell them to start? What do you tell them to do? What to focus on? And then also somebody who, I mean, let's just use us as an example, who we posted quite a bit of content at this point, but we still don't really know, like we don't have a strategy. We're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think we know what we're trying to achieve, but we're just not great at portraying that. I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
that period.
I mean, I feel like we have a lot of knowledge about real estate and nursing and like different areas, but the algorithms, like they treat things differently. Like they can treat really good content, like educational content, and like bomb it, and then they have this other stupid stuff and it like viral all the time.
There's a lot of nuances to that, but this is, if I'm allowed to mention my program,
course.
am I?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Oh, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So my signature program is called Scrubs to Social Academy, and this is where I teach nurse entrepreneurs, online nurse entrepreneurs, develop their own content strategy that they can rinse and repeat and they can always go back to, that works for them instead of the other way around, instead of like, posting without a strategy and hoping something lands. And so the first thing that I asked people to do when they get in my program is to really hone in on your business beliefs, your business principles, your brand principles, and what are those. So this is like the content formula that I teach. My Nurse Your Content formula, very on the nose, but the Nurse Your Content formula is basically asking yourself 3 big questions. Okay, so number 1 is, what do you believe to be true in your industry or your niche? Okay. Number 2 is, what would you go to battle about with a peer, to argue and debate with your life, right? And then lastly is, what do your ideal clients need to know? So if we just answer those 3 questions, and I want you to like pour your heart out and really, fight it, like these are things that I believe are true, no matter what anybody else says, we're going to kind of create content around that. And the thing in the online space is that you can't just keep educating. And especially nurses, we get educated left, right, and center at work. We get modules, we get in services, you get interrupted in med pass, right? Like we're done with the education part. So what I teach is that those 3 brand beliefs or principles that you have, you marry them with 6 content categories. And the 6 content categories that I have are NURSES, so nurturing content, right? So it's connection-based content. It's humanizing the brand. It's showing usually like who you are, showcasing your story and what made you sort of like start this business, the behind the scenes. So uplifting content, which is what we all love, sharing the memes, anything shareable quotes, right? Those go viral, right? And then you have the receipts, which is the social proof, the testimonials, what people have to say about you as a person or like working with you, right? And then next one is the stories. And this is kind of, there's going to be some overlap between the content categories, because ultimately I believe that storytelling should be a part of each content category, right? People connect with stories. This is like the ancient old way of connecting with people, is through stories. And so usually with the stories, it's like sharing your brand story, your origin story, Colin. and then and then we have the educational content, which is obviously what we love. And so with the educational content, what I truly teach is that what you need to teach about, if you're wanting to teach somebody about some certain topic, is what you've learned, because no one wants to go on social media finding what they can Google, right? So if it's, let's say you're teaching somebody how to land their first nursing interview, well, I don't want to just see something that was, prepared by chat GPT or something like that. I want to learn how you overcame like such a hard question during your nursing interview. And that sort of like becomes the connection and the credibility um, through and through with your brand. And then lastly, of course, is the selling part. So that's NURSES. The last one is the selling part, which is promoting your offers, right? No one will just check the link in your bio if you're not actually talking about your offers every now and then. And what I feel like people do is that they double down on one content, one or two. It's either they're selling all the time, that people feel like, oh, I'm always just going to be sold to by this person, or they're just educating all the time, which is, that's great. We're here to provide value. But if we're always educating, where does this move people? Where does this activate people to make a change, to change their beliefs, right? So the Nurse Your Content formula, which is what I teach inside Scripps Social Academy, is sort of like this big picture zoom out that will help you create content that is like multidimensional and helps the person, the consumer, our ideal client, to truly connect with us in different stages of their buyer journey, of understanding what our brand is about, so they can have a full experience. They can have a full like, know, and trust factor, that what we have to offer is truly valuable and will solve their problem.
And at what point in a nurse's journey, like should they reach out to you? Or at the beginning, in the middle, after they've been failing for a couple of years?
So I've had quite a few. I've had quite a few. I've literally worked with 0 to hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's always like the same question. It's like, how do I make it work for me? Well, number one is like, what is your goal? So there are people that enter my world who have complete 0 following, and because they don't have a strategy in place and they're just starting out. So we build the strategy together. And then there's a few that have, ahead of me even, that have been, 3-5 years into the online business, in the online space. And what I found is that what worked before doesn't work now. And they're just wanting sort of like a fresh perspective, fresh strategy that can keep up with the current times, especially like I love systems and innovations, and AI is like taking over now. Like we have to be always at the forefront of things, and put those new strategies in place so we can work smarter and not so much harder.
How is AI affecting what's going on socials? And because it's going to hit everywhere somewhere at some point. And I see it affecting certain areas, but it's so early stages. But at the rate of growth that it's currently going, I imagine it's going to take over a lot of things really quickly. So how is that affecting what's going on right now on any of these platforms?
We've seen it like 2 years ago. I don't know if you guys remember like paying for this like service that changed your face and put it on somebody else's like avatar or something like that. Like I paid $60 for that. And I'm like, what the heck, right?
No, I don't.
It's so expensive. But it's useless. Well, it was like $60 and like churned out 16 photos or something like that with you in different like bodies or whatever. And so the value of a personal brand that you guys are building, that I am building, and it's always like a continuous project. The value of a personal brand has never been higher, because in the sea of AI and everything sort of like fake or like, AI generated, like connecting and really communicating the essence of your personal brand, your mission and your values has never been more important. And I feel like, because everybody's generating all these AI generated things, like the more you show your face, the more face time, the more credibility, the more trust you can build with your audience. And so it's good to find balance. And usually it's through the systems that you build in the back end versus like, oh, I'm going to rely on AI for generating my, photos or whatever. Well, now you look like everybody else, right? So we want to make sure that, our face is the brand and we're always showing it and we're always there as an identity, as people what can remember. It's always just repetition. So now there's a ton of did you know that you guys can build like a virtual assistant basically with AI? Like they can, like QuickBooks or something like that you can pull your data and your sales and all of that, and you do your taxes basically. You can also do like you can create your schedule for the week based on like connecting different platforms. It's incredible. There's actually a summit where that's happening in the next few weeks that I'm excited to be consuming, because it's going to teach you how to like incorporate AI into writing, your emails and all of that, but like making it sound like you, and injecting again your personal brand into AI and not just relying on it. So tons of new stuff.
That's
Yeah.
terrifying.
I know.
Yeah, well, I heard somebody say right now, if you don't learn
Yeah.
how to use AI, you will be replaced by AI. So you just need to learn how to use it appropriately.
Yeah, I don't think it will replace us. I think that
Nurses,
it's
I guess we're safe in that area.
exactly. Well, I don't know if you guys have heard about the AI insulin pump, which changes the dose based on your patient's sugar. Scared of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, just
Yeah.
gave you 10 units right now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, wow. But
if that works as well as the self-driving cars, we're going to have a lot of patients in the ER coming up.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys have watched this movie, the Day the World Ends, and there were like the navigation system in the world, and like, where the Teslas ran into each other and just like jammed up a highway, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is a total nightmare.
So I haven't seen that movie, but I was driving somewhere with my dad and he had seen it. He goes, "Oh, that thing wasn't even realistic. Like, how many white Teslas do you even see on the road?" And we proceeded to pass like 15 white Teslas within the next like 10 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, my dad's like boomer. Just he'll never hear this podcast, but that's right.
So we can make fun of him. That's how you're.
Yeah,
okay.
we can say what it. No, but yeah, it's just it is finding that balance, because I mean, I'm not opposed to using it, but I am slightly hesitant and like cautious about it. And I think I think the biggest thing for me is just that personal touch, because I think that's what I'm so afraid of is just going to go away. And I don't want that to be us. Like, I don't want it to be very obvious that like, oh, hey, there's another group just using AI. But then there's that fear that, well, if we don't, like Josh says, like implement it within our business, we are going to get left behind. So I guess finding a way to do it in a way where we're still a personal brand, I guess is the way to do it. But it's yeah, it's a lot to implement.
Mm-hmm. It is. And that's why you have to, at least find people that are already doing it and see how they're doing it and learn from them.
Yeah, for sure. You earlier, so you talked about in 2020, you were still in an ICU. You kind of briefly mentioned that you're a PICC nurse now. At what point did you start? Did you say you started building this in 2023?
Yeah.
Your business. So by then, were you already a PICC nurse, or were you still in the ICU?
So in 2020, I made the decision to become a PICC nurse. I applied, got the job, and I never looked back. I've been a PICC nurse now since 2020, so it's going to be 3-4 years now. And then I started my consulting business in 2023. And then I launched my program, Scrubs to Social Academy, earlier this year, well, leading up to 2024. And it's just been incredible. Like the progress that I've made because I ditched perfectionism and just decided to like kind of run with it versus like, obsessing over the minute details and being meticulous and never going anywhere. So
is that more your personality, the perfectionist?
Yeah. Type A, Virgo.
I don't know.
ICU nurse.
Virgo?
Type A, I know.
My favorite color is orange. No, just kidding.
I see you.
Yeah, the worst
Oh,
combination that you can get out there.
We
so Virgo, so you were born in
September.
June. Oh, September.
I know we had this come up when we
We're
were
so
talking
bad.
with Elaine too. It's hilarious. We don't
Oh
do
yeah, I
that.
remember. She is obsessed. Yeah, we
Yeah,
are
we're
obsessed with star signs and stuff.
yeah. I know mine, and that's about as far as it goes. But so that's something you had to overcome. Do you think that you would have been as successful or would have been able to progress with this outside business had you still been in the ICU at the bedside?
Absolutely. I feel like because, like because I left bedside and I sort of like what became like sort of like the super pivotal moment for me was leaving the ICU because I've been an ICU nurse for like 10 years and I made it my entire personality. Like, cringe. But because I dropped all of that and I saw how, like, oh, I'm not just an ICU nurse. I'm not just a person in the hospital who works and like loves precepting all of that. Like, I actually could drop everything, sort of like step into a new role identity of a PICC nurse, which I completely knew nothing about. I knew what PICs were, but that's it, right? Like it gave me the courage to go for the things that I've always wanted to do, which is become an online educator, become an educator in the online space. And so it just became like a ripple effect onto all of the other things. Like I started investing. I started investing aggressively. I learned personal finance really well. And, I'm still learning, but then it just opened. I've finally been able to sit with my emotions. When you're burnt out, you kind of push things aside and to just kind of keep going. But then when I finally sat with what I truly wanted out of, my personal life and my professional life, I've discovered the things that I actually that I've always wanted to do. And the first step was to really make a drastic change that I was not ever prepared for.
Well, I think that's huge. So, like, I mean, for you, probably first thing you did was went and changed your license plate from something RN to like.
A sticker. How dare you?
So you did have the book.
Oh my god! And I peeled that off after like 2 years because I'm like, oh my god, that's cringe.
Did you really have the bumper sticker?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Terrible. It was like a Superman.
Yes,
Ugh.
yes, it was, of course.
Oh my gosh.
With the EKG rhythm,
Yes,
with RN in it.
They need to stop selling that thing.
No, why would they? That's a great business strategy.
That is actually.
So I lost my
Where were
train
you
of
going
thought.
with that?
No, but once you peeled that off, oh no, but what I was gonna say is it's so powerful because it's like you were burnt out and like your options are what? Leave nursing, which is a very stable income. You mentioned 6-figure income in Texas, which goes a long way. So you can reach 6 figures a lot faster in other states, but obviously the money's not going as far. But just that transition from, hey, I'm burnt out in ICU. I have this idea. I want to do this thing, but instead of just taking this big leap and putting myself in a bad position, you found PICC nursing. And I think that's great. And like Josh and I were joking before we started here because I was scheduled to be off today, but I don't want to make a joke of this, but somebody's cremating their cat today.
Oh my god.
So they needed the day off. And there was like 2.5 hours this morning that needed to be picked up. And because we've moved, and I'm actually, earlier you mentioned we're both CRNAs. I'm actually ER nurse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but I was like, yeah, I'll go work 2.5 hours and then come back record, because the type of ER I'm in now, it's not like just this nightmare to be there. So there's just power in finding these little niches within nursing where you can be happy and comfortable and successful.
Well, and it's doing hard things. Like if the more you do something hard, the easier it gets, and you do other stuff. And that's kind of exactly what it sounds like you did. Like you stepped away from ICU, which is way better than ER. I heard you say that. No, so you stepped away from the ICU. That was probably the hardest decision, and then all of these other hard decisions that you made subsequently got easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel like you're right. Like, you find your niche in nursing. There's so much like specialties that are unheard of, like forensics, PICC nursing, like informatics, and now work from home is a thing. Like it's such the craze right now that it's incredible. And I love seeing that because it's like, it's giving, nurses that are not up for the traditional route of like doing bedside, who want to explore other things and like, see a glimmer of hope and not be stuck with truly is like bedside truly is the backbreaking hardest thing to ever do. Yeah.
And it's there's so much more to. I mean, like today they were talking about, when I got in this morning, they were saying what a rough night they had and the 1 unit short staffed and blah blah. And I was just, man, I don't know. I'm here for 2. This is like the most
There you
princess
go.
shift I've ever done. Like,
There you go.
but it is, and that stuff all wears on you. So I think people start looking for these avenues
Yeah.
out of nursing, but there's also great avenues within it. So, I was gonna say,
Now's the time.
I was gonna say, we probably should have asked you about this ahead of time, but
Yeah.
If it's
we
a no,
would-
we'll edit it out. No big
Yeah.
deal. So
yeah, we'll edit it out. But would you be willing to do an exercise where you basically look at our Instagrams and judge us?
rate it and
Harshly.
Yeah.
Oh my
Be as
God.
harsh
Yeah.
as possible, because
Come on.
So you know, I thought about that when I, you know, like I was sort of like reckless in my personal brand. I said maybe I'll start a thread or like a series of me roasting people's accounts.
start
you
here.
But I could not.
You've heard it here first. Look out for
Someone's
Jumer's.
probably already doing it. Here's the thing: if you've thought of it, somebody's already
That's
doing
true.
it.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't do it though. You can do it better.
That's true. But that's not my personal brand.
But so would you be willing to like hop on right now and take a look
Oh
at ours?
my gosh! Okay, I have my phone
judge us.
here.
Roast us, raging Jumer.
Let's
Yes,
see.
yeah,
Which
this is-
one though? Which account?
We'll
We'll start with investing RN
invest.
Okay.
pod.
Well, I can't do that because you have a lot of people in it, and I don't. roast people.
It's
No. Like
it's not.
not
it's
necessarily.
It's actually just a business. There's no persons in there.
No, but just in terms of like just what you're seeing, knowing that we're a podcast, like what do you see right away when you look at the page?
So a couple of things that stand out right away, which is really, really good, is that you have a logo for a brand, which is, again, because you're 3 people, like, sure, you can have like a headshot of 3 of you, but Investing RN is very distinct. Like, I love the logo. And then second, a lot of people don't realize that the Instagram name itself is searchable. And so this is great because you put your name right away in there, Investing RN, and people who are nurses will be looking for investing nurses, who are nurses that invest. Like, I want to learn from them. And so when they search for it, you guys will be part of the top searches, right? So that's great. And then you have some more keywords, which is the Nurse's Guide to Invest and Break the Mold. So I would imagine that Nurse's Guide to Invest is a highly searchable keyword or term. So even if somebody searches for you on Google, your Instagram account might pop up as a top search. So that's great. So those are great for like search engine optimization, which is just ranking higher in search. Okay. And then number 2, you have a clear bio. Like who do you help? Like, who are you and who is your target audience? So you provide investment tools for burnt out nurses. No brainer. I understand that what you offer is for me if I'm a burnout nurse and I want to learn about investing. No brainer. Right. And you even added a little bit more, expounded on that, which is we connect nurses and entrepreneurs to build financial freedoms instead of picking up more shifts. You know what's so incredibly cool about that? It's very granular, right? Instead of saying like, oh, to have a wealthy future, which is, yeah, we all want that. But then you got granular and said, instead of picking up more shifts, which is, again, a tendency of us nurses to pick up more shifts just to kind of, like it's an immediate action. So when you call out like a specific like scenario in the day of a person, like they're more like, oh, that slaps, right? So I think you guys did a great job right away on that.
Oh my goodness, is this as mean as you can get? This is
Yeah, come on, dude, roast us.
Oh, you want me to
Roast
be mean?
us.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, number 1 is I need to know who are the hosts of this account, right? So I would probably have all of your usernames in there. Like, who are the hosts? And like sort of include like, how are you related to each other? Because it could be like, I don't know who they are. How are they related to each other? So maybe add your names in there in the bio. And like the real estate and invest highlights, like what am I going to get out of those? Probably add a little bit more, like it's great to have those in there, but what else do you offer? Like probably add your story, like why did you start your company, your business as, siblings?
Okay, like
Um,
sublinks, you said?
siblings,
Okay.
yes.
No, you said siblings. Why
Oh,
do we start our business as siblings? But he's talking
oh,
about the
these
the
links.
story.
Oh my goodness.
I know, and I just ran with it until he finally, and you picked up on it.
Well, because I'm
but you're
wondering,
talking.
that's a lot of stuff
No,
in the
he's talking
bio. It's
about.
not going to fit. So that's why I was thinking, like, do we add sublinks? And that's why I thought you said sublink.
I know, I just ran with it. No, so your Instagram highlights, so think of it as like your storefront, your shelves,
Oh,
right?
we're in the
Like these
highlights.
are what's in on the menu.
I'm sometimes a
Josh,
boomer.
I'm
Josh
I'm
is our
actually
Instagram guy.
there you go. And I would probably add your story, right? Like what came about, what's your mission behind the brand, and like some testimonials on who you've worked with, or like what projects are you currently working on. Like just give people behind the scenes, because these are like your Instagram bio, your Instagram profile is basically your modern day business card. Like people are going to want to check you out once they, let's say like for me, like somebody's going to find me in your podcast and they go on my Instagram profile and they want to see what I'm all about. So I have their, my stories, some testimonials, my offers, some freebies. So right away, I'm giving them a quick win, right? And we love quick wins because that means we're helping people, we're giving value. And so I would add some more highlights, like your story, some testimonials, or behind the scenes of who you are, who Josh is, who Colin is, and who Jen is, right? And some pinned highlights. You only have one right now, which is great because it tells me your story. But what else you can add is like maybe either your top performing reel, so they know that like you guys are actually going viral, and that
Even if it's the most random thing of a goat with like a wig on.
there you go, you or the shorts. Was it on this account? The dissolving shorts.
Oh, the shorts, yeah, that was on this account.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that one.
Was it on this one? No. So what you want to have for pin posts, it's also like, again, it's a storefront. So you want to leverage the ones that either bring so much awareness about your brand. If your most viral reels actually showcase your personality, then go ahead and pin it, right? But then you can also, like, it's great that you already have your introduction, your brand story in there, so people can right away know who you are. I would, if you have, again, testimonial, social proof, or like an investing portfolio that you want to showcase because you've worked hard for it, and you want to flex that expertise that you know what you're doing. So maybe those.
I think I'll speak to that for a second. Is because we don't want to ever seem like we're bragging, and that's kind of something that we've worked through a little bit. And yeah, like, because investing is hard, and like to get as far as we've gotten, like it's going to seem intimidating for a lot of people, and so we don't want to ever seem braggy at all.
Right. And I love that. And it's, again, that's what sets a personal brand, from the others, because people can feel that. Like if we're jumping right away on that, then people are going to be like, nah, it doesn't land right. So I totally understand that. But sometimes we have to flex. We're not posting about it every day, right? It's not like, oh, I'm slapping you with my portfolio every day on my feed, right? It's there if you want to check it out. Does that make sense? Like I'm offering you to look at it if you want to, but I'm not going, like, again, I don't post about my income claims every day. Like we've seen, it's a lot of inflated income claims there that make us like, oh my gosh, here they go again. So yeah. So, and the last thing is that maybe just a little bit of cohesive branding. So like, I see that you guys have a great background color on the logo. So like maybe pick that as like, the base of your carousels or your reels or your reel covers. And then like the red, you could pull that, and then the white. And so if you like those colors, then run with it. So you kind of have a cohesive appeal to your feed. That's it. Because a branding, like branding just sets you apart from your competitors and whoever. And just whenever somebody lands on your page, they know that, oh, I'm consuming this guy's content.
That all kind of tracks with what we've discussed. But again, it's like three of us kind of going around in
Yeah.
circles.
Yeah.
So it's like, It's tough, but I will say for your personal roasting channel, you're gonna have to be a lot meaner though.
Yeah, that was a little soft.
You were way too nice to us. Say something.
I'm really looking now.
Just
No,
scroll
I
down.
can't.
Scroll down to one of my faces, and then you'll have something to say.
Oh my gosh.
Usually I'm mid sneeze or like look like I'm chewing.
Ooh,
something.
that's also good. I mean, like, yeah, find the frame that's like the most awkward and just run with it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Should we?
No,
should we jump to
Yeah, I
our
was gonna
final
say-
five for a little bit?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can jump to our final five here
Okay.
for a little bit. Yeah, Josh, we're gonna jump to it for a little bit, and then the episode will end.
We like to make fun of each other. It's a good time.
Yeah, sorry.
Alrighty. So final five. First question is: what's a top financial resource you've found? Where do you go to educate yourself?
Ooh, I have several, like I consume different kind of media depending on what I'm doing. Like if I'm out driving, like podcasts. One is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. The Financial Diet for like newsletters, like I regularly consume that for years now. And I guess like for books, like I have my daily drivers, but one of my foundational books was like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. My like I always go back to Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass series, like all of the things. So those are like the normal things that I consume. Yeah.
So the second one is what advice would you give your younger self, your new grad self, fresh from the Philippines in the sniff? What would you tell yourself?
I would say to like grow thick skin right away. And it's going to and embrace your, you know, your authentic, unique self, as cliche as that sounds, because I, you know, for the longest time, I felt like, you know, as a neurodivergent and as a member of the LGBTQ community, I feel like I've struggled to find my niche. And so when I just like ran with who I am and like what I personally believe is true, then I've, you know, pulled those people in. And at the end of the day, those are the people that I want to work with. Those are people that are going to value what I'm going to say and what I have to, you know, to teach and offer. So yeah, so embrace your authentic self as soon as you can, and don't compare yourself to people.
Comparison is I think that's a
Thief
tough
of
one
joy,
these days.
right? Isn't
Yeah.
that the
Yeah,
quote?
yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy. Alrighty. Number 3 is: what excites you about the next 12 months?
Ooh, what excites me in the next 12 months is growing my consulting coaching business and creating more sort of like pipelines that can help more nurses in the online space, like leverage Instagram. It is a free, powerful marketing tool. Like, let's take advantage of it. And instead of like, you know, being so in like fighting the algorithm and like obsessing about it, like what if we just kind of like create content for our one ideal client, which is they're right there, they're just waiting for you to say the right things to pull them in to take action. So for me is to grow my coaching business and to hopefully be an online business coach. And that starts with me learning about all the things first before I can obviously teach more people.
Question number 4 is: how do you define success?
My definition of success has definitely evolved over time, but I feel like when you are at a point where you can, you know, like balance professional and personal growth and still find time to do things that light you up and be able to afford such things. It's not just about personal gain, you know, the financial gains. It's about like really like being successful in terms of like the freedom that you have with the money that you have, right? Like money is a tool. At the end of the day, it will help you do the things that you want to, that make you happy. And so for me, success is being able to do all the things that I want without restraint of time, you know, energy, having a healthy body.
Number 5 is: what is the biggest financial mistake you've made, and what did you learn from it?
My biggest financial mistake is, number one, like very tangible, is taking out $8,000 from my very first 401k because I thought that's what you're supposed to do at like 24 years old.
And who told you that was what you're supposed to do?
because again, I was never taught personal finance. I didn't know that you're supposed to let that sit there. So when I switched jobs, I thought I was like, oh, I made this much money. Let me take it out. With inflation and yeah, you know, I did not know the value of compound interest and time in the market versus, timing the market and all of that. And so that was probably like my biggest financial mistake. And second is like not investing in myself, in my business right away. And, seeing investing in myself as sort of like a way to elevate me. So everything around me kind of elevates the people that I help, the people that are entering my world. And so does my business and, that life that I want.
Final Five is over now. We've completed it. It was great. You nailed it.
Accomplished.
Was it a test?
No, you passed. But one of the other things I was going to say, I think we talked about earlier, was just as far as like the time commitment for Instagram. That's a big thing that's been an issue and a whole hang up for me personally. But for you, with what you're doing, how many hours a day do you spend on social media? And are you just Instagram, or are you doing anything else?
So I'm a huge proponent of really getting good at like one platform and then mastering that. And then once you're really good at it, you can branch out, because I've experienced this before where I wanted to create a blog, create a podcast, and like be on TikTok as well. Like omnipresence is great, but when you're trying to do all of that, especially in the beginning stages of your business, it's hard to manage everything. And that's where you hit burnout, is because you're wanting to do everything. So for me, I teach my clients to get really good at Instagram first, and then you can branch out. Sure, if you come to me and you already have a podcast, you already have a blog, that's great. But we're going to get really good at Instagram, so that overflows into all the other platforms that you want to be on. And so for me, I teach batching. I teach, if you're working 312s, then we're going to think about how we can, on your days off, what you need to prioritize. Is it to write, like, let's say hooks, or record, videos, or write your scripts, or maybe write, script your video. So we make batching work for you in your schedule, so you're not glued to your phone and you can actually be present as a nurse at work. Because most of the people that come to me still have full-time jobs. They're not like, a full agency that have like virtual assistants and all that. Like mostly are solopreneurs, and they want to make this work first, so eventually they can step away and make the biggest moves that they can make.
And for you, how much time are you spending nowadays?
So for me, I spend about, let's see, I can't really, it's become a habit. It all comes down to habit stacking. But for me, I make sure to engage like 20 minutes a day. And then because I don't create content in the moment, I kind of, batch my content. Then I spend like, on my days off, I spend like an hour filming videos and then writing the script the next day for an hour. I don't do it all at once. And that's what I teach people, is like, don't batch create everything where you're sitting down to create 7 reels and writing all the scripts. Like, you're going to be burnt out, because you're going to run out of, first of all, inspiration, because you can only pull so much creativity out of you in one sitting, right? And that's why we need to slowly like compartmentalize what we want to prioritize. Is it to write captions? Is it to, film the video? So we chip at it slowly and we make it a habit, so it becomes sort of like a routine, and you kind of look forward to it and make it fun and make it work for you.
Yeah, I could get on board with that.
Yeah.
So
it's easy to get lost in a video. Also,
my goodness.
Like, especially starting out, I was like, I'm gonna do these elaborate scripts and schemes, and then I'm like 4 hours in, and then I get like 500 views, so I'm like, not doing that again ever.
And again, it's, like the more you churn out the content, the better you get at it, the faster and more efficient you are the next time. And you kind of, that's why it's important to track your insights, to see what lands with your audience, what's the most viewed, what's the most liked, what's the most shared, because that tells you, okay, I have to double down on this kind of content because my audience loves it. Right. And it's just like, sometimes we have the best inspiration is on our feed, and it's to look at what content performed the best.
So for our audience, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jumer Adalin. My website is jumeradalin.com, and I have a Instagram audit checklist for free that you can download, and you can run with the 7 steps that's going to help you stand out, attract more ideal followers, and start making sales by just simply checking 7 things off your list.
Where do we get that free checklist? Or
it's on my website, jumeradalin.com.
On the website, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sounds good. Thanks again for coming on. This was a blast.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you, guys.
And for the Investing RN podcast, thanks for joining us. And make sure you jump on and share this with a friend. And check us out on YouTube and all platforms. Thanks again.